So now we are on to the last module of this lecture, so module 0.5, and here we are just going to discuss the learning objectives of this course. So in this course, we have 5 parts, and the first 3 parts we are going to cover in quite a bit of depth, and the last 2 parts are we are going to touch on towards the end of the course. So first part is about basics of security. So how do you secure applications, operating system, legacy code, and various access control mechanisms, isolation, authentication, and things like that. Then we'll go into web security, and as we saw that 50% or more of the problems are in the web, so it's an important part, and we'll be talking about how to build robust websites and understand the browser security model and how browser security could be actually affected by various exploits. Then in part 3 we'll talk about network security. So how do you defend against network attackers? So monitoring and architecting secure networks, and talking about networks standards and so on. Part 4 will be on mobile security. So we saw that 21% in 2016 were Android compromises. So we'll talk about that, but since this is limited time course, so we will not get into too much details. And finally, as time permits, we'll talk about the infrastructure security, like power system and manufacturing system security, so security of industrial systems. So that's the main content. And we talked about what is security. It's designing systems in the presence of adversaries. And so with that in mind, let's talk about major learning objectives. So major learning objectives are basically the things that you are supposed to know or learn at the end of any course. This is the major learning objectives are the stuff that you are supposed to learn and know at the end of the course. So first major learning objective is to discover software bugs that pose cybersecurity threats. So given a software in C or in Python or any other language, what to look for and where to how to test the software for finding security vulnerabilities. And then you should be able to explain and recreate exploits of such bugs and create cyber attacks by exploiting those vulnerabilities, given that your software has that. And then you have to also explain how to fix those bugs to mitigate those threats. So this is the software application bugs. Now, second major learning objective here is on the web browsers and web servers. So how to discover cyber attack scenarios to web browsers and web servers, and explain various possible exploits. And for that you have to understand the web security models, recreate cyber attack on browsers and servers with existing bugs, and explain how to mitigate such threats and implement them. The third objective is to discover and explain cybersecurity holes in standard networking protocols like TCP, IP, ARP, DNS, BGP, Ethernet. All these were not designed with cybersecurity in mind. These are designed much before cybersecurity was a big issue, and therefore you have to study this network architecture and standard protocols and see where the vulnerabilities lie. And then you have to explain the mitigation methods and revisions of standards. Now IPv6 is there, and various new versions of DNS, DNSSEC and BGPSEC and so on. These new protocols have cybersecurity in mind, so you have to be able to explain how they are taking care of cyber threats. Number 4 is to discover and explain mobile software bugs posing cybersecurity threats to mobile applications, and explain and recreate exploits, and explain mitigation techniques. So this will be a little bit superficial in this class, because first 3 components will actually take majority of the time. Finally, articulate the urgent need for cybersecurity in critical computer systems. So as I said, that the industrial critical systems and power systems and so on, they are vulnerable to cyber attacks, but there is a separate course for that. In this course, we will not be able to go into much details, but we should be able to explain or discuss enough so that you can explain where the vulnerabilities could be and what can be done and things like that, explain the threat scenarios at the end of this class. Number 6 is, at the end of this class, you should be able to articulate the well-known cyber attack incident. So when you actually read about a cybersecurity incident and read the post-mortem analysis, you should have enough knowledge at the end of this class to actually explain it to the others and explain what mitigation techniques could have avoided this and things like that. So that's the overall knowledge that you would gain from this class. And number 7 is they explain the difference between systems cybersecurity versus network cybersecurity, cryptography, crypto protocols, and so on, because these are often confused by people as something same or they're the equivalent of each other, but they're not. And therefore, you have to, if you have taken a course like this, you should have very clear idea about what these are and how they differ from each other and where are they applicable and things like that. So with that, the lecture number 0 is over. So we'll have lecture number 1, where we'll start looking at real technical issues in cybersecurity.